everybody. Welcome back to Real Words. I'm Rayanne Thorn Krueger, host and producer for Real Words. I am continuing my series on behalf of Beachtown Books with another Beachtown author. This is Allie Stay. Hey, Allie, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Such a pleasure to chat with you. Before we dive into some questions that I have, I would love for you to give us an intro of yourself. Tell us a little bit about Allie.
I am 23 years old. I am an elementary school teacher, just starting out in that whole world of education. Super crazy, but super fun. Born and raised in San Clemente, still here teaching here, which is really awesome. And I am now a published author.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is very, very exciting. And you will be participating in the author pop up event that's taking place at Beachtown
Yes.
Books on the 20th and the 21st. What day will you be there?
I will be there on the 20th.
On the 20th. Great. So,
Mhm.
Saturday the 20th. And we'll put a link in the comment section of this. So, this broadcast, so that if anybody wants to
Mhm.
pop by and meet an
Awesome.
author, in particular, this one that I'm speaking with right now, Miss Ali Stay. And what grade do you teach before we jump into?
I just finished my student teaching in 3rd grade.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
I remember third grade. I remember it well.
Mhm.
That was multiplication and handwriting. Do they
Yeah.
still teach handwriting?
They do actually. At the
Okay.
school that I teach at, they have never gotten rid of it, and they actually are pushing, I think I just heard, to make it required in all schools in California to
Good.
do that again, so it's coming back.
Great. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So tell us the title of your book and what it's about.
So my book is called The Elderen Wood, and it's about these 4 really close friends who are about to go away to college. It's the end of their senior year, and they're on a little camping trip that they do every summer, kind of to celebrate a new start. And it doesn't go as expected. They find this door that's not like attached to anything in the middle of like the forest, and they go through it, and it leads them to King Arthur's Camelot. And so it's kind of the story
Wow.
of these 4 like close friends in this new crazy world that they're obviously not used to.
I love this. So,
Mhm.
what's the inspiration behind the book?
Well, it is based off of me and my 3 best friends, that I did make in college, and when I started writing this, I was in college, and I always wanted to write a book. I have always just loved creative writing since I was a kid. I love reading, I love storytelling, and lockdown happened. Sure, we all remember,
Yes, we
well,
remember.
2020, and my dad has always been pushing for me to do creative projects, and he was like, "Now's the time. You gotta write this book." I was like, "All right, I guess I do have some time." And I was talking with my friends, and I was like, "I wanna write something. I don't know what to write," and they kinda put the idea in my mind of, "Oh, what if you write something based off of us?" And then it kinda just flowed from there. Like, we were always talking about, "Oh, like, what would we be like if we were in, like, a fantasy world, if we were in a sci-fi world?" It was just kinda conversations we would have, living together in college. And so all of that kinda came together and formed the book.
Wow. So the Elderen Wood, and is it written
Mm.
for a specific age group?
It is young adult fantasy,
Okay.
so I'd say, like, 13 to 16 is kind of the age range, but I
Okay.
still read all of those books. Those are, like, my favorite. I don't think I'll ever grow out of that young adult, genre, so
It feels kind of like an adventure cross between Lion Witch and the Wardrobe and Harry
yeah.
Potter and Lord of the
Mhm.
Rings and all those
Oh,
fun
yeah.
things, those friendship, the really strong friendships and
Mhm.
relationship books that are meant for that age group.
Yeah,
So,
those are all my
when
favorites.
why why write? Has this something you've always done? Did you write as a third grader?
I did, yeah, I've always loved writing and making little movies and just any form of storytelling, I just thought was so fun. My mind is just always going, is so much imagination even now in my adulthood. It's just still going wild. And yeah, I would just write little stories as a kid, and I just found it so fun to share those stories with others. I remember like in middle school, I would write short stories for my friends and I would like bring them to school and be like, here's a story I wrote for you. And a lot of times it was like, oh, this is like a story about us or like in a different situation. So that concept, I guess, did really start on early.
I love that. I love that so much. So, do your students know that you're on a podcast right now and that you've written a book?
They don't know that I'm on a podcast, but they do know I've written a book. I actually, for one of my lessons for finishing up my credential, I had them all write their own books because in third grade, it kind of works out perfectly. That is when they start working on creative writing
Yes.
and kind of the formatting of that and how you do the whole writing process basically. And so I did a whole unit on creative writing and I did bring in my book. They're not I told them I was like, you're not old enough to read it yet, but one day we
Good.
kind of talked about it and used my book sort of as the example. And they all wrote their own stories and it was really sweet. Like they even designed their little covers
I
and
was going to
they got
ask if they liked the cover and if they were able to create
they were,
their
yeah, we
own
looked
cover.
at I was like I showed, my book, I was like, "So what does it have?" We had to look at all the elements of a cover, and it was really sweet. A couple girls, their covers looked very similar to mine, and I was
Of
like,
course
"Ooh,
they
that's so
did.
cool."
That's that.
But yeah, it was really cool to be able to share that with them and then see their own stories come to life. They
Yeah.
were really awesome to read.
Sincerest form of flattery is
Yes, this is true.
imitation, right? So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so I would love to ask, since you've just prepared lessons for third graders, 8 year
Mhm.
olds, 8 and 9 year olds,
Yes.
I would love if you had any advice that you shared with these kids or that you could give to other new writers, folks that maybe are thinking about doing what you have done at really a pretty young age to
Yeah.
be in the middle of finishing college, getting your credential,
Mhm.
teaching classes and
Mhm.
running home to do a podcast because you published a book. I mean,
Mhm.
that's so wonderful.
Yeah,
Any
thank
advice
you.
you can give?
Um, I mean, I always tell people you just have to sit down and start writing. Like, for me, it was something I wanted to do for so long, and I look back, I'm like, "Why didn't I do it?" Like, what was holding me back? And I know it was just my own inner voice being like, "That's too hard. I don't have time. I'm not good enough to do that." And I did still struggle when I first started it. I was like, "I'm not good enough to do this. This is way too hard." And I was putting so much pressure on what I was writing, and once I kind of let go of that pressure, it all just came easy. I
Yeah.
was like, "I'm not writing this for anyone else. I'm just gonna write this for me," and it almost turned into something, like, sort of fun. It's like, "I'm just gonna write this for me and my friends. It doesn't matter if it gets out there in the world. I have a story that I wanna tell, and I'm gonna do it." And once I started being in that mindset, it came a lot easier. And then, yeah, I still remember the day I finished it, and I honestly didn't think that day was ever gonna come, and I just remember sitting there. I sat there for, like, 10 minutes, and I was just like, "Is it done?" Like, did I
Is it
just
really
write a
done?
whole book?
Did you
Like,
feel happy, surprised, like there was a hole? Now what do I do now? Now that I finished this thing that's been hanging over
yeah.
my head, what do I do now?
I mean, I definitely felt surprised. I was very excited to, like, run home and, like, tell my parents, be like, "I'm
Sure.
finished." And yeah, I wasn't really thinking too much about what comes next. I was just kind of in the moment, like, feeling proud that I actually did do this.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That is a big, giant accomplishment. I'm really proud
Mhm.
of you. And we just met, so I'm really proud of you. And
Thank
I
you.
look forward to getting my copy signed at the author pop-up event in
Mhm.
San Clemente at Beachtown Books. So, I want to dive into something maybe a little bit more, maybe you haven't thought about too much, or maybe you have. When we think about technology and how it has shifted and changed, when you think about for you as a 23-year-old, how technology has changed from the time you started high school, right? Think
Mhm.
about how much has changed from the
Mhm.
time you started high school until now as a 23-year-old. So basically the last 10 years,
Yeah.
how much technology has invaded into our homes and our lives,
Mhm.
our smartphones, smart homes,
Mhm.
smart everything, right? I mean, I can
Mhm.
even turn my hot tub on while I'm at the restaurant, right? So,
Right.
so I mean, there's so many ways to utilize it for good.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, are we at risk of losing creativity in the future? This is a question that I'm asking
Mhm.
every author that I have a chance to ask. When
Mhm.
I know that that author has basically slaved and given
Right.
themselves to create a piece of fiction or a
Mhm.
business book or poetry or write a song, whatever that content creator has done. And I know that it's come from them, it's come from their human
Mhm.
side. Do you think we run the risk of having creators in the future if it's so easy to create by typing in a prompt now?
Yeah, I think so. This is something my dad and I actually talk a lot about because he is in the, like, technology field. He's a software engineer, but he's also a very, very creative person. He
Right,
has inspired, a lot of my creative work, throughout my life. And so he's saying, "Oh, AI has been cool. It's helped me do these mundane tasks with my, like, software development that, like, I would have to, like, type out." But also, there's this
yeah,
other side where, yeah, it does kind of raise some concerns and takes away that humanness. Like,
right,
when you walk into if you walked into an art gallery and it was just all computer generated art, you're not gonna be
right,
impressed by that. You're not gonna have that connection to it. Because when you see a piece of art, you know that there's a person behind that. There's a story behind that. And it does, like, invoke an emotional reaction.
right,
And, you think, "Oh, someone, like, created this with their own, like, 2 hands. What inspired them to do this? Like, what is the meaning behind it? Why did they choose these colors?" And so, you lose that when you just type something in and
right,
it
right,
generates it. And I think too, having stuff like that so easy to access is it discourages people from pursuing those creative things. Because it's like, "Oh, why would I learn how to write, or why would I learn how to paint? I can just have the computer do it for me." And especially with these, like, young kids that, I've been teaching, you see so much how that they need creativity. It's so important. You can
as
see in
part of
there.
the
Yeah.
developing an adult mind
Mhm. You just
relies on experiences.
Mhm.
And when you give them these creative experiences, then they have opportunity to really continue to grow and then inspire more creativity,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and
So,
it's how they learn. Like, it spans across all subjects. If you give them just a math worksheet, they're not gonna be interested, but if you give them a creative way to sort of express themselves and explore the concept, they become so much more interested. And so it really is, like, the foundation of everything we do pretty much.
listen, Allie, if you're making math creative, I'm coming to your class.
I'm trying my best because I
Well, good
remember
for
what
you.
it's
We need that. We need that. I
like.
know so often, I mean, when you're in school, there's that imaginary line divided. They're all the math and science kids over here, all the creative, the artists and the writers
Mhm.
over here. And
Bring it together.
sometimes, like you, let's bring them together. We've
Yeah.
got individuals that are right and left brained that can
Mhm.
appreciate the science and the math behind parts of life and
Right,
creativity, and then
right.
also recognize how valuable it is to have imagination and
Mhm,
produce art,
mhm,
write a song, right? Write a
mhm,
story, tell a story. I love that. And I think that you are probably really have access to some balance in understanding this based on
mhm,
your dad's experience and his
mhm.
knowledge as a techie, and
Yes.
going into that world and understanding the challenges that the young people that you'll be teaching, the minds that you're going to be molding
Mhm.
for the next 20, 30, 30, 40, 50 years.
Ah.
Unless you become the American Peter Jackson, the next Peter Jackson,
Oh,
female
that
Peter
would
Jackson.
be
Let's say it that way.
that would be crazy.
Wouldn't that be fun? Well,
Mhm.
congratulations on getting your book published.
Thank
Before we
you.
get away, what's next for you?
I am writing the sequel to the Elderen Wood right now.
Yeah, good for you.
It's it's been a process, because I did start writing it right when I started my teaching program, so there's been a lot going on, in my professional life, but I'm trying it's so important to find time for yourself to be creative and do the things you love, so I'm
Absolutely.
trying to find time. Summer's coming up, so I definitely am going to take advantage of that time and try to finish it. We'll see how it goes.
Good for you. Good for you. Do you have a title for it yet, or are you
I
sneak
don't have a
peeking things? Okay.
title. I
And
don't.
how can people buy your book, The
There
Elderen Wood?
are multiple ways. You can get it on Amazon. That's probably the easiest for most
Okay.
people. They also sell it online at Barnes& and Noble. Most places where you can buy books,
Okay.
you can grab it online. So if you go on Google, search the name, it'll come up.
And before we finish, I would love for you to tell us or share with us if you have a favorite author or a favorite book yourself.
Um, I'd have to say my favorite author is probably Neil Gaiman, because I love everything he's done. My favorite book is probably Good Omens, um, and yeah, I just think he has such a fun, unique way of storytelling. Is very interesting sentence structure. I feel like I've never really read anything like his stories before, and I'm always just so invested in the characters. And they also make great film and TV adaptations. I love movies and TV shows, and yeah, The Good Omens show, The Sandman show, and Coraline the movie are some of my favorites. And yeah, all came from Neil Gaiman books. So
That's
I love
amazing.
everything he does.
Well, Allie, thank you so much for joining me today on the Real Words podcast. I'm really happy to have had this opportunity to chat with you and learn about your process, your what's happening for you next. The Elderen Wood, or is it Woods? The
Wood.
Wood. Wood. That's right.
Yes.
The Elderen Wood by Allie
Mhm.
Stay is available on Amazon and wherever you purchase your favorite books. This episode will also be available on anywhere you like to stream a podcast, as well as YouTube and Vimeo. And we will see Allie, and I hope to catch a little bit of film snippet there when I see her on the 20th at Beachtown Books in San Clemente. Thanks again, Allie, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure.